Thank you very much, John, and my thanks to the Russian government for putting together this extraordinary forum. I think that this is going to have big implications, not only for Russia, but for the world for many years to come. My focus is the energy system, and I think the thing that's sort of curious about the energy system compared to all of the other things you've heard about on this panel is that it appears to be changing very, very slowly by comparison with these other areas of technology. You know, the basic structure of the energy system has not really changed for the last half century. More people are served, certainly. There are some new technologies that have come in, but basically the structure is dominated by very large power plants, transmission lines out to cities and factories. But that system not only has left about 2 billion people with no electricity at all, and probably another 2 to 3 billion with very unreliable electricity. That 2 billion number has really not changed over the last 3 decades that I've been working on these issues. It is, I think, a sad and embarrassing situation for the energy industry. But I think the good news is that not only must the system change, in large measure because of the fact that the carbon in the atmosphere is literally going to make all other things that we do impossible, but also because the technologies are now available to change the system very quickly. Many of the technologies have been presented here today. In effect, energy is sort of a secondary technology. It draws from biotechnology, from digital technology, from advanced materials and physics. And because of some structural problems in the electricity business, those technologies have not been applied very quickly, and again, that is now changing very rapidly. And so I think we can see over the next just couple of decades, in contrast to what most in the energy industry project, that we will begin to have a very, very different electricity system than what we have today. It is going to be truly dynamic, dramatic change, similar to the scale of the other technologies you see in front of us. The new system is going to have to be fast. We both have to get there quickly, but we also need a system where, rather than waiting 10 years to build a power plant, as we saw earlier from Ericsson, similarly with energy technologies, you can call up on a Wednesday and have a new electricity system mounted on your roof on a Friday. Those kinds of things are now possible. It's going to have to be much more efficient. I think it's going to have to be much more decentralized, with the power generating sources spread out across the world. And of course, it is going to have to be low carbon, low environmental impact. The two, I think, prime movers of the energy system over the next several decades are going to be renewable energy and natural gas. And let me start with natural gas, which is the slide you see there, because you might wonder, why is this one fossil fuel part of the energy transition? Well, there are a few just critical reasons. One is the sheer abundance of natural gas. This is the growth just of unconventional natural gas in the United States, predominantly shale gas. Growth has just exploded. New technology has allowed us to extract a whole new set of resources that are found much more ubiquitously around the world. Of course, natural gas is also more low carbon than the other fossil fuel sources, and it is a much more flexible fossil fuel and can help deal with some of the transmission and storage issues that a renewable energy dominated system will present. Next slide, please. This is sort of a foretaste of what is going to come. This is when the different power plants in the United States came online, going back to 1950. You can see in black the rise of coal-fired power in the 70s and 80s. You can see nuclear power beginning to come up in the 70s and 80s. And then there was a period where very little was actually being built. And then look at the explosion of new technologies being built over the last decade. It is almost entirely a combination of natural gas and renewable energy sources. We've stopped building nuclear, we've stopped building coal plants in the United States, and Western Europe is doing the same. Let's turn to the next slide now, if we could. So solar energy, I think, is the one energy technology whose growth, this hockey stick-shaped curve, is similar to what we see in the other technologies described today. This is a very, very rapidly advancing technology whose market has exploded, literally now doubling every 2 years, and the price of solar photovoltaic systems that you can put on your rooftop or put in a desert to provide power for cities, the cost of this technology has fallen by 2/3 over the last 5 years. And compare that, the cost of both coal and nuclear technologies over the last 30 years has actually risen. It's actually going up, and this one is coming sharply down. What that tells you is that renewable energy sources, not only solar, but wind and biomass, are going to come to dominate the energy systems in the future. The big challenge we face is certainly not the abundance, and let me go to the next chart. Actually, go to one more. It's not the abundance. This shows the abundance of sunlight in the world, particularly in the southern part of the world near the tropics, but of course enormous abundance of wind in Russia and other countries of the far north. But the key thing about this transition to renewable energy is that we're going to have to figure out ways to cope with these intermittent energy sources. I mean, how can we run our electricity system 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, if we have energy sources like solar and wind that are going up and down? There really are three elements, and really these are quite straightforward, not that difficult. They already are being developed in some countries, and that is, one, we provide more natural gas to the system. That makes it much more flexible than coal and nuclear plants are. Secondly, we begin operating the grids much more efficiently, using, of course, the digital technologies, advancing the grid systems to the smart grid. And then finally, we do have to develop a range of storage technologies. Some of them are technologies that you can store energy even interseasonally between winter and summer, or summer and winter, but also technologies that provide for instant feedback, so that if there's a very sudden change in either supply or demand, you can make it up. Let me now go back to the slide that was just before. That may be more difficult. Just before. Yeah, so this shows the growth rates. This is over the last 5 years of different energy sources. Over on the left-hand side, you may not be able to read this. Nuclear power is actually going down. Will go down faster after Fukushima. Oil is going up at 0.5% per year. Natural gas is beginning to move more quickly at 1.8% per year. Hydro is growing at 3.2% per year. Now those don't sound like the other technologies we've heard about today. But then move a little bit more to the right and we see some different paces of change. The biofuels industry is growing at 23% per year. The wind power industry is growing at 27% per year. The solar energy industry is growing at 55% per year consistently over the last 5 years, and will continue to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the future of energy. Thank you very much.